Matter. I'm the president of Make Mothers Matter, which is an NGO created in 1947 at the UNESCO in Paris to raise awareness and support the essential role of mothers in economic, social, and cultural development. I will first tell you a little bit about the reality of mother's life, and then I would like to present a few good practices that have been proven useful, and finally make some recommendations to better reconcile work and family life. We were talking about this work performed by women and mothers who is invisible in national accounts, that's taken for granted, that's not even regarded as work. And worse than that, it often has a negative impact on the mother's life. It even has a word about that. It's called the motherhood penalty. And it shows that women who are taking care of their children and their family are paying a motherhood penalty when they should be rewarded, valued, and recognized for it. Either the motherhood penalty being at work when it's difficult to juggle with both paid work and the unpaid work they perform, or whether they are not engaged in paid work and they have to pay the financial motherhood penalty. So this is true in developing countries and in developed countries. In developing countries, often the unpaid care work compensates for the lack of infrastructure, and it prevents women from engaging in income-generating activities, and it has a direct link with feminine poverty, and when mothers are poor, children are poor. And even when women are engaged in paid work activity, it's not always in itself empowering, because if they are working outside the home, they often have second shift at home after their paid work day. And that's even true in developed countries, where most households have access to public infrastructure and services, as well as time-saving technologies. And even there, mothers suffer from time poverty, juggling between paid work and unpaid work with their family, the house chores, etc. This reality is confirmed by a survey that was conducted by the European delegation of MMM called What Matters to Mothers in Europe. I have only one brochure here, but you're welcome to look at it when it's finished. And a majority of women, when asked to deliver a message to policy makers, were asking for more time with their children. Because mothers know that care is not only about material needs, but it also answers developmental and emotional needs. It is of central importance in societal and human well-being and to the formation of the next generation. And often that emotional nurturing and the transmission of values provided by parents, often it's overlooked and it needs to be better recognized and supported. This calls for better measure to reconcile work and family life, and here I was interested because in this survey, when women are asked what they would like, ideally, like the Canadian man you were talking about, if there was no financial pressure, if they could choose whatever they wanted to do, they would, the majority of them, it's always a matter of choice, because there is always a portion of women who want to work no matter what, a portion of women who don't want to work, who want to take care of their children. I'm talking about preferences, I'm not talking about the reality. But there is that huge bulk of women who would like to stay with their children and work part-time until, and that was the surprise, until they are out of school, which is almost 18 years old. And when you said that, where 40% of the women are working part-time, it's true in most countries where they have that choice. And so it's interesting to see that's what they want to do. And maybe it's because the balance between full-time work and family work is not well, doesn't exist, is not as good as they wish to do. So they need to have only part-time job to be able to juggle with both. That's why I would like to talk to you about some good practices that we have identified. And one of them, you were talking about Norway, and I would like to give the example of France. Make Mothers Matter France was invited to present here at the UN at an experts meeting in 2012 the best practices of France in work-life balance. And France has been a leading example in the field. Why? Because of the diversity of measures and their stability throughout many governments. Let's hope that it stays like this. For example, France has developed a diversity of childcare options, including external daycares for working parents, and financial benefits and leave policies allowing parents to care for their children themselves. There is that variety, and the result is interesting. France is one of the European countries with the highest fertility rate. Women's employment in France is also one of the highest in Europe, and the access of women to senior positions has doubled in 30 years. So I won't develop the measures in detail, but the good practice I wanted to tackle here is the fact that the French government has been accompanying the diversity of parents' choices rather than forcing them in one direction set by the state. And the finding of MMM survey I was telling you about has shown that if given a choice, mothers wanted both to work and take care of their children, as I told you, giving priority to one or the other, depending on the number and the age of children. And as you were saying, the third child is exactly the difference in the reality of the life of mothers. With whether they work part-time or full-time, the third child makes the difference, or if they're still home. So that's the French example. Another example is Chile. In Chile, there has been a remarkable progress in the number of children covered by childcare services in the last 10 years. There was a government program called Chile Creche Contigo, Chile Grows With You, introduced in 2007, and the number of creches has increased from 700 in 2006 to 85,000 in 2010. And so it was a real forced action program, and the Action Aid report I was telling you about during my introduction says that the early evaluation and indicates that accessing childcare increases the Chilean mother's employment by 15%, and it's keeping growing. It keeps growing. Another example is England. In England, employees have the right to request flexible working. It's a law that's called Right to Request Flexible Working. And originally, this law was created to allow parents to take care of their children or their elderly relatives. It worked so well for employees and employers that it was extended very recently to any kind of reason. You can request flexible working hours for whatever reason you'd like. And the employee, and I cite the law here, I quote the law, the employers should consider requests in a reasonable manner and can only refuse them if there is a business reasons for doing so. And the list of business reasons is listed in the law. So it's interesting to see that it's good for employees, and it seems to be very good for employers because it's been extended very lately.
Do you have an example of
No, unfortunately I don't, because I've been recently aware of this when it got extended. I'm sure there are many examples, because if it was such a success. Another example of good practice is an NGO example. You might have heard of the He for She campaign, launched by the UN recently with Emma Watson as the prominent figure of it, that aims at including men in the pursuit of gender equality. And that's exactly what the association I'm telling you about, which is a member of MMM, it's called Mercredi c'est Papa, Wednesday it's Dad, is doing. Their idea is that if reconciling work and family life is a struggle for many women today, men are also trapped in a stereotype of professional success, and sometimes at the cost of their family life. And they had they created an interesting image. Women are trapped under the glass ceiling, preventing them to develop their full professional potential. But men are trapped on the glass floor, preventing them to develop all their private potential and familial potential. And so Mercredi c'est Papa created Happy Men with the idea that men in the workplace should take steps to better balance their private and professional life, and that will help women to do so as well. So Happy Men accompanies men, helps them with very small and concrete steps, with realistic aims and commitments in the workplace and in the family. And MMM is very proud that Mercredi c'est Papa is a member, because with them we believe that gender equality is about giving men and women equal possibilities to find fulfillment in the workplace and in the family, helping them to strike out the right balance for themselves. What is best for each family is different. So dealing with this issue in partnership with men, thank you, Philippe, is key to enable innovative changes in the workplace and in the family that will benefit all stakeholders, women, men, children, and businesses. I have another business example. A Spanish electricity company of 9,000 employees decided in 2008 with the employees to concentrate the work from 7:15 in the morning to 2:50 in the afternoon, with 45 minutes flexibility, which means that at 3 o'clock everybody is out of the office. 6 years later, and after an impact assessment, the company had improved the balance of work and family life for its employees, but also its productivity. Absenteeism was reduced by 20%, and industrial accidents by 15%. This company possessed what is called the EFR certificate, created by Mas Familia Foundation, which is also a member of MMM. It is a tool that assesses the family friendliness of organization, and an external party every year assesses how the organization performs in relation with up to 50 indicators in relation with family friendliness. Companies with EFR certificates are continuously improving, and if they don't comply with at least 5 of these indicators, they are denied the certificate. As of today, 420 companies worldwide are certified EFR, benefiting 450,000 employees and their families. I wanted to talk about women entrepreneurship, but I think the example that Philip gave about that flower person is just amazing. And there are many examples in several countries that are gathered in the mompreneurs. Maybe you're aware of that, mother entrepreneurs that are supporting and encouraging young mothers to start businesses to have more flexibility in their hours. Female entrepreneurship is really booming, and it's very creative and should be supported by gendered policies in entrepreneurship areas. I would like to give now some recommendations, and giving a list of recommendations is a little boring, but I would like you to listen and to identify recommendations about which you can act, wherever you are, whatever your responsibilities are, and act by yourself or act by making other people aware of what's necessary to improve the mother's life. I have 8 recommendations. One is to provide accessible, affordable, and high-quality public services and infrastructures, in particular in remote and disadvantaged areas, such as rural areas. We talked about how much it was using the time of women, that lack of infrastructure. Secondly, building on the resolution that was adopted by the International Labour Organization in 2013, that's legally recognizing unpaid family care work as being a particular category of labor that brings rights, like access to social security, access to education and training, and also voice in democratic system. 3, recognize the periods dedicated to unpaid family care work in the calculations of pension rights, like care credits, as these periods not only contribute, but are essential to society's well-being. This must be seen, the unpaid caring period should not be seen as a cost, and paying with care credits and pension rights, it should not be seen as a cost, but as an investment in childhood and human capital. 4, make unpaid family care work visible, both to policymakers at large and the society at large. That's something that all of us can do. Assessing its monetary value as a percentage of GDP, or by developing a new indicator on well-being, including unpaid care work. The report from UN Special Rapporteur on Poverty, Magdalena Sepúlveda, says that, on poverty and human rights, Magdalena Sepúlveda says that estimates on unpaid care work would constitute between 10 and 50% of GDPs if it were assigned a monetary value. Recommendation number 5, promote the flexibility in the workplace and the regulation of quality part-time job and job sharing schemes, allowing men and women to adjust their working hours with their load of family responsibilities. We were talking previously about the importance of women in part-time jobs, and that's a reality. 6, facilitate this continuous career path. I was talking about how women wanted to give priority to one or the other career or family, depending on the number and age of their children. 7, recognize and validate the skills that are developed while performing unpaid family care work. These are soft skills also, as managerial skills, organization skills, all sorts of skills. It's important to recognize and validate those skills to facilitate the re-entry on the labor market after a career break. It's not like if, while taking care of a family, one has been doing nothing. 8, and that's the last but not least, promote and support the equal sharing of care responsibility between men and women as an intimate and personal choice. So that's something that families have to be able to choose, and it shouldn't be a stereotype or a set defined thing to do, but it should be a choice that family can make of their own. So I would like to conclude now, and if we all came to New York, to the Commission on the Status of Women, it's because we know that change can come from us also, from each of us. Our will has to be so strong that it induces political will. Our world is not caring enough for those who care. Mothers and all women have continuously shown their strength and their resilience. And I have heard here at this session many presenters at the CSW talking about what they owe to their mothers. Many mothers are heroes, and they need to be recognized. What is good for mothers is good for children, and what is good for children brings about a better world. So I thank you for listening to us three, and I would like now to engage in dialogue with you if you have questions.